all right. Let's turn this off. Mic check, mic check. Magic 1 2 1 2. I do have my AC on. Hopefully it's not too loud. I've built a wall of fly tying material containers between me and the AC and the microphone. So hopefully it's not too loud. I also have like some noise reduction stuff going on in OBS. Turn this off. We got everything shut up. Let me get this light on though. I think a little... Oh, you know what? This will do it. We can shut that off now. All right. What is going on? I hope everyone's doing well. We're going to be doing some fly tying. It's been a little while. I hope everybody's doing good. What do you call it? I've recently been clamming every morning essentially with AC fishing, so I'm getting used to it a little, but we're going to be streaming in the afternoons. So getting back on track with some fly tying. I am going to be going to play some Warhammer later with my buddies, but we're going to be doing some fly tying. So I hope everybody's been doing good. We got some summertime flies on the menu. Also, the Friday fly giveaway stuff I'm putting out in the post office today, so I'm going to drop them off there in the regular mailers. But we're going to be tying some summertime flies. So I'm thinking like juvenile fluke, probably some sand eel imitations or sand flea imitations like sand crabs, mole crabs, if you will. So that's what we're going to be doing. And I'm going to get some music set up on my phone as I usually do. And we'll get some hooks here as well. Let me actually, what's the easiest? I think I go this way. Like that, and then the other one. But I hope everybody's doing good. I know it's been a little while. I've been getting used to going clamming every day, but it's just for a couple hours, like 3 or 4 hours, doing some hard clamming in the boat, which isn't bad at all. And it's honestly a lot of fun, so. But I'm usually pretty shot afterwards. But now I'm getting acclimated, so I can, we'll get back to streaming. The fishing, this time of year, the fishing is pretty much like either flats fishing, closer towards the ocean where the water's nice and clean, or either beach fishing. So I got to figure out, I'd like to do some fishing here soon, but I guess we'll see what the deal is. Maybe we'll try and go do some bay fishing somewhere or something like that. Get some music set up here. It's been pretty hot, so I got the AC on because it's starting to heat up out there. Okay, good. I'm gonna get some hooks here. Again, appreciate everybody tuning in. All right, what do we got here? I'm looking for some small hooks, or some hooks that I can use to imitate fluke, juvenile fluke that is. So definitely a lot of flies that are flipping over that we're going to be fishing either in shallow water, a lot of shallow water, clear water fishing sort of deals. We got some smaller hooks. I'm trying to see, I have a couple Lawner shank hooks because I'm going to try and imitate some juvenile fluke. What are these? Size 1/0 big games. We can try that. The new big games, they're pretty light, so they probably flip pretty good. More 1/0s. I got a lot of 1/0s. Oh, I'm getting ready for albie season. I forgot. Speaking of which, I'm going to start tying albie flies soon. So, hey, Gabe, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. What other hooks do we have that are suitable for these? We'll probably do like, a little sand eel, half and half, perhaps. Oh, I got some little tarpon hooks we can use. That works. What else do we got? Looking to see what sort of random hooks I have here. Other than just mustad big games, which I usually use for everything. We got tarpon hooks, mustad tarpons. Let's see, do I have any? Oh, we got a jig hook. We can use the jig hook, perhaps. Here we go, some one-odd O'Shaughnessy's. That should be alright. Alright. I want to start with some imitations of Juvenile fluke. So that's what we're going to try here. Give myself some room to start. Well, we got these little one-odd O'Shaughnessy's. Let's try these. They're like the little bit longer shank hooks, the classic O'Shaughnessy bend and everything. 2x heavy, 1x long. Okay. Dumbbell eyes. We're going to need dumbbell eyes. I think I have a bajillion dumbbell eyes in here, so let's see what we got. It's either use dumbbell eyes, right? Or you use lead wire, right? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think it's something that not a lot of people utilize, Gaze, but one thing we noticed fishing, particularly clamming, during the summer last year, spending every day on the water, and what was happening is all these seagulls are sitting on the water. And we're like, what are the seagulls like? Okay, they're just sitting there, right? But for like a mile long on this stretch where there's just like drop off near the flats. And we're like, what's going on? Every once in a while you see the seagulls go fly up and they go crazy and they like, it looks like there's like an explosion almost. And we're like, what is going on? But you see the seagulls most often than not, you just see the seagulls grabbing something and all like struggling to try and catch something. And then you see them come back because we're clamming off of this offshore island, in the bay. This island that's out in the middle of the bay. It's pretty much just like beach grass and one or two trees, right? And there's sand, so we're clamming there. And you watch the seagulls come, and they regurgitate juvenile fluke for the chicks. They're seagull chicks. And then after just watching more and more, what we figured out is it's striped bass chasing little fluke, like, that year's hatch fluke or whatever. Spawned fluke. Not spawned, but hatched. And they're chasing them to the surface, and then the seagulls are all just set up like 20 feet away from each other, 10 feet away from each other, spread out in like a grid. And they're just waiting for their chance to grab a juvenile fluke that shoots up to the surface that a striped bass is chasing. It's a really cool summertime fishing thing that we figured out that everybody just drives past it. They just think it's seagulls sitting on the water. And just because you see seagulls sitting on the water doesn't mean it, this is what's going on, but in this particular area we found out, so. Because, there's always been juvenile fluke and flounder patterns for striped bass. I'm going to tell you right now, the old timers back in the day used to take fluke that are like this big, and they would use them as live bait for striped bass, which is illegal. You don't do that nowadays, but a lot of the old timers said like 4 to 5 inch flukes are like the one of the greatest giant striped bass baits for summertime, but don't do that because it's illegal. This is like old timer stuff. Tungsten powder, yeah, there's different ways you can do it. We're going to stack some lead wire on the bottom, and we'll put some dumbbell eyes to help flip it as well. And then we'll tie material essentially on top, which is upside down here. And then we're going to, the material and the weight on technically the top side of the hook is going to help it flip over like this. So that's the idea. First things first, let's get a pair of dumbbell eyes. I like to put these like right up at the front, and these just help with the weight. They're not essentially even necessarily helping us imitate the fluke. It's just to help us flip it. So that's why a lot of times, if you can not use dumbbell eyes, you can get a more realistic imitation, i.e. using tungsten powder or just a bunch of lead wire. But I'm just being lazy. I'm using some lead eyes to help me flip it and get some nice jigging action to it as well. So now we'll take some lead wire. It's pretty thick. And I'll stack this up here. Because I think if you just do lead wire, you're going to have to stack it up pretty good, almost like a big Sadati slammer, to help you ensure that it's going to flip over properly. Because technically you could probably like bend back it and just do it just with material, but it's kind of tough. You definitely want weight to counteract and to help it sink as well. Okay. So essentially we got some weight to help flip this thing. So now we need some material. What are we going to use? We could always use a dubbing brush and just trim the bottom and have the material on top. In fact, let's do that right now just to show us a quick and simple way. And I do have dubbing brushes that I made specifically. So where are they? Because I reorganized everything. Let's take a look. I think the dubbing brushes are in here, right? Yeah. This is just like a quick, easy way here we could try and do it. Let me see, what sort of... These are some homemade dubbing brushes that we made a while back. But the other option is to V-tie. So let me take this material. This dubbing brush is coming apart because it's so old. I need to fix my dubbing brush table. At some point we'll break it out and make some more custom brushes. Okay. So I guess we'll start with a V-tie. Well, let's do the dubbing brush first. For the tail, what should we do for the tail? Essentially, we're going to dubbing brush, trim the bottom. The material on top is going to stay, and we'll brush it. So it's kind of got a juvenile fluke shape. But for the tail, we need something. We could go with natural material, maybe just some feathers or marabou or something. Let's see, do I have some tan? I think I should have some tan marabou. We got some tan feathers. Here we go, tan marabou. There we go. Steve Farrar blend. Okay. Well, what we'll do is on the V-tie one, we'll use the Steve Farrar blend. This is kind of like a... Let's try this dubbing brush with this. We'll go with some marabou just because I got it out. But that's a good idea. Some Steve Farrar blend. I don't really want to tie too much of that marabou on the bottom because it might actually counteract, but this is good like that. Just a little bit off the back there. Then we'll just take our dubbing brush. I'll wrap this up. What are your thoughts on fluke fly fishing? It's very good. What you need to do, Gabe, is you need to find flats. Particularly like if you find estuaries or parts of the bay where there's flats and then there's drop-offs. You'd be surprised. A lot of times the fluke can even sit, even where it's like 3-inch change, 5-inch change. And it could be, essentially, they could be anywhere in, 3-4 foot of water, or they could be down 10, 12. So you find these, or you'll find them in shallow water too, but usually you look for like slight changes or steep drop-offs where it's offshore flats or flats in the estuaries that drop off somewhere. And then the fluke will, you swing your fly, particularly clousers and stuff, you can use sinking lines. What we do is we take our boat, or my buddy's boat, we go to a flat, we pull up, and then we'll either anchor or we'll drift. And the flat goes from like a foot of water to a 1.5 feet, and it drops off to like 10 foot. So we'll let the fly naturally, like a clouser or something, something weighted particularly, or bright. We like bright flies too, or just sand eel stuff. And you let it sweep with the current go and let it sink and then jig it, essentially. Like strip it and let it pause and strip, erratic. And you'll catch a ton of fluke. I've caught a ton of fluke on the fly. Little fun thing that we used to do too, my buddy figured out, is you troll those like walleye trolling lures, you know, that go down like 5-10 feet and stuff. He found little ones like this. He would troll them behind his boat on the flat, and we were catching like 20-inch fluke. So I've never seen anyone do that before. So that's pretty interesting. I've done it on my kayak, trolling like a giant squid that dives down to like 4 or 5 feet, and trolling it on the deeper areas by the flats. That was actually a really cool thing. He showed me. He's like, "You want to see something cool?" And he like put out these like walleye trolling lures. And next thing you know, we caught giant fluke. He was just trolling them really slow. They were just like... But you could definitely catch fluke on the fly. It's a lot of fun. You should try it. But that trolling lure thing, that blew my mind. I was like, oh my god, I've never seen anyone do this. I'm going to have to brush this pretty good, but I'm just trying to keep it from wrapping on itself. Yeah, fluke are a fun summertime thing. I like fishing with jigs for them too. It's fun. But if you can get them on the fly, it's great. Oh man, this hook is sharp. It's bobbing, dude. I gotta fix this thing. Alright, let's brush it. No, quite a few spots. Yeah. So look for, and listen, you'll find them in like 2-3 foot of water on flats. But just look for any change in depth, like little rips and stuff, or like deep drop offs. And then just let your fly it has to naturally, like, you want it bouncing or you want it like naturally drifting. We've also, little fun story, that same guy that figured out that trolling lure thing, I watched him catch a fluke on a dry fly. We found fish eating bugs hatching on the surface. There were these small black flies hatching all over off of this offshore island, because there's all these little islands that the birds live on out here. And we found these bugs hatching in mass in like July. And he took a steelhead fly that was like a steelhead dry fly. And he tied it to, it was like a steelhead dry fly, but it was like tied to be like a floating crab fly, essentially. But it was really small, because there was another crab hatch that we found. And he cast it out there. It's floating on the water. He's using like a 10-foot leader, steelhead line, steelhead rod, because he came from steelhead fishing. And all of a sudden, this giant fluke ate this dry fly off the water. And I have a photo in a local tackle shop, we gave it to him, of this dry fly, big like steelhead dry fly in this fluke's mouth. It was so cool. So, go ahead and go fly fishing for him, because you can catch him. If you ever see a bunch of bugs on the surface hatching in the summer, and there's every once in a while little rises, you need to have a bug dry fly. I don't know if anyone's ever done something like that, but that was sick. I'd be curious. Somebody's dry flied a fluke before with a dry fly during some sort of insect hatch, marine insect hatch. I have the photo somewhere on Facebook. I just never use Facebook, but there's an actual photo in one of the tackle shops somewhere, so it should be ingrained. Like a steelhead muddler? Kinda. It was almost more like a wet fly, you know, the classic wet flies, but it was tied with the hackle in a way that it could float. To imitate, it didn't have spun deer hair, I don't think, to imitate a green crab in particular is what he was using. And then he also caught some striped bass sight fishing with that fly as well, which was sick. That was pretty cool. Alright, let's trim this. And we can save the material that we trim on the bottom, by the way, to use for the V-ties. I'm going to trim this really short on the bottom because I don't want this material to cause it to, to mess with the buoyancy. We want this fly to ride hook up. Now we could probably trim some material on top. This fluke are more flat. Try and get a little bit of curve to it. This is a very just simple, you know what I mean? We're not going for a hyper realistic fluke imitation. This is just like a fishable fly. Also, pretty much just imitates a crab as well, minus some legs. I very rarely use legs on my crab flies, like rubber legs. Sometimes I will, but a lot of times I tie them like this, so it's just like a generic flats fly. And when it's wet and fishing it, it's still going to hold its shape. That's why we want a certain amount of material. So essentially just like that. Now we have a juvenile fluke fly, right? Which isn't bad. That's a pretty good, darn good profile for some marabou and a dubbing brush, right? And then to really get fancy, what you do is, we're going to hold on to that. We're not throwing that out. We'll take this. Just give me 1 sec. I'm just going to put this on here, and I'm going to dab it with a Sharpie to give it a classic fluke speckling. Just kind of roughly, you know what I mean? To give it some natural camouflage, as they do have. If you've ever went out, I used to do it all the time when I was a kid. I would go out and grab a seine net, like a 10, 30, 40-foot long, maybe 50-foot long seine net with little weights and then floats on top, and you kind of wrap around an area in the marsh, and then you pull it in, and generally around this time of year. We should do it one day, actually. I have a small seine net. We should do it for fun, and you'll find a bunch of baby fluke that kind of look just around this size, maybe a little bit smaller at times, but something like this. And this is what the bass are chasing, and those seagulls are smart enough to figure out that they're doing that, so they've learned to sit and just wait, and hopefully they're lucky and they're the one where the bass chases right near them. It's probably so annoying for the bass to do all that hard work of chasing that fluke, and you get it all the way to the surface, and then a seagull just yoinks it. But I'm sure the bass probably get most of them. Alright, now we'll do one with a V-tie. We'll do some C4R fiber in the end. And let's try and specifically not use dumbbell eyes. We'll use lead wire, and we're going to go pretty heavy on it. First things first, we do the lead wire. Got to be not touching my face, I got to remember while we're doing this. And then we should probably tie some crab flies. Again, these are kind of generic. You can use this for a crab fly or a fluke, but we could tie some more specific, like crab fly. So I usually do 3 strips, 1 in the middle and 1 offset on either side. And then I stack 2 on top. And that's my Sedati Slammer lead profile for the keel. So we're doing like a reverse keel on top. Yeah, crab flies are very important to have, Gabe, because during the summertime, the fish focus a lot of their efforts on the flats, but you know, at the same time, either a flat wing, like a really sparse flat wing, or a really sparse deceiver, like a Mickelson's deceiver, the slim deceiver, or a very sparse clouser or half and half, like in a sand eel pattern. The main thing is you want it sparse, right? For bait fish imitations on the flat. But crab flies are always good to have as well. You know what's funny is I fish a lot of crab flies. They do pretty good. We'll just blind cast them. We'll anchor up on the edge of a flat because it's certain boats you can't really sight fish from very easily. So you're better off just anchoring off in like 5 foot of water where the edge of the flat is, and we just blind cast crab flies, catch a bunch of fish that way. Um, it's pretty effective. So, but a lot of the fish that I catch will be on like thin yellow over white or tan over white sand eel imitations, like flatwings or very slim deceivers. Because I'm not necessarily a big fan of fishing weighted flies a lot of times, but little thin half and halves are really effective as well. But we got a good amount of lead wire on here. I'm hoping this should flip it naturally. Where's our Steve Farrar? Where did I put that? I know it worked. Oh, did I think I stuck it with the flash? Yeah, crab flies are very good to have. They're very good to have. I do have some tan, I think. Oh no, we used all the tan, so let's go... Let's go chartreuse. I know it's a little... Do we go chartreuse? I'm like tempted to. Maybe we go gray? Or do I do white? What do you think? White or gray? Or do I go crazy and go chartreuse for the tail on this? I'm thinking chartreuse might actually be good for the tail. Even though it's not like super realistic, it's You think white? Okay, we'll go with the basic version, the tame version. That's fine. Me, I'm like, yeah, chartreuse, let's go. I have like some... I'm running a little bit low because I tied a ton of these for a shop. I think I tied like 10 of them or something. Or 12. We're going to cut this down to a shorter length. The thing is, there's a good amount of flash in here. You know what I mean? I'm not super big on flash for flats flies. The other thing is using like dull nail polish and stuff. This is a trick from Alan Calejo's book for sight fishing, but using like a dull nail polish or something to dull down the shine on a hook is pretty important apparently. So I love flashing. What's going on, Anonymous? How you doing? Alright. Might need to trim this, but actually, let's tie this on the bottom. I think it's going to be cleaner. Just thin this out by hand here. Alright, now we can V-tie with some of this. This is essentially just craft fur is what it is, if I'm not wrong, and some EP fiber mixed in. I'm not going to put any material on the bottom. I'm not going to worry about it. And the way that I'm going to fish this thing is... They're going to be seeing that profile from the bottom anyway, so with the sun. We just want to make sure we get that nice fluke profile going on. Juvenile fluke with the width and stuff. We're just V-tying this. Probably gonna have to trim it because some of this stuff's lawner, but that's alright. I'm gonna go a little bit sparser on this one naturally. Let's see how it works. Let's go ahead and tie this in like this, fold it back. Again, this is pretty simple, right? Other ways you could tie fluke stuff, I guess technically you could spin some sort of deer hair body, right? That might be a pretty cool way of trying it. But then you're getting more of a floating fly. But I think ideally what you want to do is cast this out in deeper water off the flats. where you think this is going on. And then strip it pretty fast from the bottom. You know, fish it on the bottom kind of slow and then strip it in really quick up to the surface like a fluke run in a way. I think that's how you're going to want to do it. Or perhaps just fishing it really slowly on the bottom, because that's where the bass are going to be finding them. But let's say you're coming up to the boat. That's when you want to strip it in quick. You can like bounce it pretty slow for the most part. But you want to imitate that fleeing fluke at the end of the retrieve, I think. I don't know. We're going to have to try it out. Problem is, there's so much boat traffic while this is going on. It's in a very popular spot where people fluke fish. And there's just a ton of boat traffic all the time, so it's going to be tricky. Maybe try it in the morning or something. But you see it happening like just during the middle of the day. In the deeper parts of the bay, off the flats. But keep your eye out and see if you can, if any striper people here, you see something like that. It might be what's happening. It might be a juvenile fluke getting chased by stripers to the surface. If you see those seagulls all hanging out, like spread out somewhere on the bay. And they're constantly like, you'll see 2 or 3 of them fly at one time, and they're trying to get the fluke that's being flushed up to the surface. So it's like a very specific behavior thing you'll see. But to most people, you wouldn't even think twice. You'd think the seagulls are just grabbing a crab or something, you know what I mean? They're just hanging out. Everybody just drives past it, but it was like Sherlock Holmes watching it every day. Because you're just sitting there raking clams after cutting a trench, so you're just sitting there doing nothing. So I would just sit there and just watch these seagulls diligently. There's nothing to really do. You're just raking up steamers. That's the sort of cool stuff you see when you work every day out there. Especially when you're fishing on the flat, clamming on the flats. I'm going to just wrap this off at the front. No dumbbell eyes. We were able to tie it all the way to the front, essentially. What I'm going to do to be safe, we're going to hit the bottom with a little bit of super glue. Cover that lead wire and that mono thread. And maybe stiffen up the like roots of where we tied the material a little bit, you know what I mean? We don't really want, really not any super glue, but just a little bit right at the base of where the material is. I think is okay. We'll try it out. And then we're left with that. But that's something we can work with. I'm going to be a little bit more careful with brushing this because I did do the super glue at the base. This is essentially how you tie a merkin. This is essentially just a merkin crab fly, right? That's really all it is. That's how I first learned how to do V-ties, by the way, was for merkin crab flies. As a young fly tyer trying to catch bass on the fly on the flats, sight fishing. It's like almost impossible to sight fish out here without a boat. It's very tough to do it from shore. Because our flats are just different and the water isn't always as clean. So let's see, a fluke pattern, eh? They're kind of more ovalish than round, you know what I mean? It's going to be more something like this. That came out pretty good. A little bit of white at the end for the tail. See what it looks like. Maybe slightly trim this a little bit more. I want it to be even on both sides so it doesn't weeble wobble. The lead wire though, look at the lead wire on the bottom. That should help it flip. So, I mean, I think that looks pretty good. It's a pretty good looking juvenile fluke right there. We'll hit it with some dots. The classic dots. But we'll leave the dots off the white for the tail, because I'll hit it with a couple. Looks cool. And there we go. There's our juvenile fluke without the dumbbell eyes and just the lead wire. What you could probably do is even add a little bit of UV resin to the bottom here, just to like reinforce it a little bit, but also I'm going to trim it just a little bit more to match it on the other side. To reinforce it, but also add a little weight to help flip it, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Like, we're going to keep that lead wire safe, but we're also going to add some more weight to help flip it. Not a lot, just a little bit of some medium resin. That's what I'm thinking. By the way, I appreciate everybody tuning in. Hope everybody's been good. I've been doing some clamming every day, so I'm getting acclimated to that, but we're going to be streaming in the afternoons, so, because we clam in the morning, so probably like not too late though, probably like maybe 2 or 3 or 3 or 4. I'll stream for a couple hours, trying every day, except Tuesdays and Sundays, because I go over to my buddy's house. But try and get a little schedule going, if you will. I'm also going to stiffen these bases slightly. Very slightly. Kind of just like that. It's looking good. Hey, Drew, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. Hey, Southern Fly Guy. Hope you're doing well. Appreciate you folks tuning in. Yeah, thank you, Drew. Yeah, we like found this phenomenon of the seagulls hanging out and eating the juvenile fluke that the striped bass were eating. I've always tied flies like this and kept some during the summer. So recently I went out with my buddy AC, who I'm doing the clam with. He caught like a 30-pounder, a 40-pounder plus on live bunker, and I was trying the fly, and we had one fish that was chasing a live bunker that we had hooked, and I threw the fly out there, but unfortunately it didn't work. But I haven't done much fishing since then, because we've been clamming every day. But I would like to go out and do some flats fishing here soon, or some like estuary, shallow water fishing. So I figured we'd tie some juvenile fluke flies, because I saw this last year and I was like, oh dude, we gotta try this, because it's kind of like a perfect fly fishing scenario where it'd be really tough to imitate this with a spinning rod, you know what I mean? So this is like a perfect fly opportunity of trying to imitate these juvenile summer flounder, aka fluke, you know what I mean? So there we go. Nice little fluke fly. We could put eyes on this, but whenever I put eyes on them and like add some resin, I like hate it, but let's do it. Let's add some eyes. I don't know why I don't like the look of it. It's tough to like add eyes to these, in my opinion, and make it like look good, but theoretically I think we could put 2 eyes like that and then glue that head. It's gonna look funky and it's not gonna be anatomically correct, but it'll look cool. Will it affect it catching fish? Probably not. It might affect the way the fly swims, because we're adding a little weight, but that's about it, probably. Where's my eyes? Right here. Oh, no! Okay, it could have been worse. Okay, what size eyes can we fit here without it looking... Yeah, this is probably it right here. These always look so funky, and technically, to be anatomically correct, they're both on one side. for a fluke or flounder. And the difference between summer flounder, aka fluke, and winter flounder is that they're on opposite sides, I think, technically. I think a summer fluke is technically a different than a regular flounder species, but I could be wrong. But their eyes are... The way you can tell a fluke from a flounder is the eyes are on one side of the body for one and the other. I always forget what it is, but... We'll just put it like this and make it look like a cartoon character. You know what I mean? Is it going to make a difference? Probably not, honestly. Because they're going to be looking at it from underneath, but perhaps if I'm bouncing it on the bottom. I do like how the eyes are kind of facing slightly different, so it has like a wonky look to it. This is really just for me. For me and you chat. I don't think the fish will care, but we'll see. It's got like a wonky eye. Just kind of like make sure it penetrates the fibers there, so I can like, it's going to have resin fully covering the eyes, but I'm really trying to be careful that I don't get it all over the place, so kind of just like that. You know, it's honestly not bad. Do you use a sink tip and flutter it on the bottom? Yeah, so you can use a sink tip. You definitely want to use a sink tip, I think, for this sort of application, but you can use an intermediate line. You can even use floating lines, because in some of these areas, it's really only a 2 foot, 3 foot deep, and there'll be like a 5-inch, 6-inch, maybe an 8-inch depth change, where on one area of the flat, and fluke will like sit in pockets like that. You'd be surprised. We've caught them in very shallow water. But the majority of the time you're fishing either out in the bay on a boat. There's these offshore flats, they're called, in the bay, but it's these sandbars and giant flats where it comes up to a foot of water from like 8 or 9 foot, and you fish the edges of that, and there's channels that run through the flat, so there's like 5, 6 foot, 4 foot sections depending on like what the tide is, and the fluke will sit in there, and you strip the fly with the tide to where it swings off of the flat into the deep water. So a lot of times you'll start in shallow water, or you can cast it like directly into the deeper water and like let it sink, and it'll go deeper out into the channel, like the middle of the channel, if you will. So usually sink tips. The particular area where I saw the seagulls doing their thing, it was fairly deep. It's like 12, 13. So I would use a sink tip, throw it out, let it sink for like probably at least, depending on your sink tip, at least 15 to 20 seconds. Let it hit the bottom, and then strip it, let it pause, strip it, and like almost like a jigging motion, and as you're getting closer to the boat, strip it really fast like it's running from the bottom. But you're just gonna... I've never fished a fluke fly for this particular seagull striper dichotomy thing going on, eating baby fluke. So, but they live on the bottom, right? But when they move, they kind of scoot. They're like, they swim really fast, and then they bury themselves. But if they get flushed out by a fish, they shoot up to the surface, is what happens, apparently. Give me a sec here. Just text my buddy. All right. It's looking pretty good, though. I like it. Yeah. And I forget what sort of fishing and whatnot you do, Southern Fly Guy. You're doing saltwater, right? I think you have... are you down south? I forget where. I'm sure there's the same sort of deals going on, because there's a lot of summer flounder, a.k.a. fluke, down south. And you can catch them on the fly as well. Like if you're going for speckled trout and stuff like that, you'll probably end up catching fluke, as well. Because you might end up catching fluke on juvenile fluke flies, because there's 100% they eat each other. Yeah. Oh yeah, North Carolina. Yep. There's definitely summer flounder there. So I wouldn't be surprised if other species are eating like big redfish or more so probably the gator, like speckled trouts and stuff. I would imagine are probably targeting these like juvenile fluke. I don't know when they spawn down in North Carolina due to temperature stuff. They might like spawn earlier or later in the year, because it's probably more likely than not temperature related. That's how most fish end up spawning certain times of the year in certain temperatures. But yeah, catching the flounder like crazy. Yeah, now flounder season, so everybody's out fluking every day. You see them as we go clamming. But yeah, let's I'm gonna take a quick little break. We'll play our Albie highlight. I'm going to wash this lead wire off my hands. Let's tie perhaps either a couple crab flies and then perhaps like some sand eel flies. Or like I'll show you how I tie my really sparse bait fish flies, which is how I fish shallow water during the summertime. Generally, the sparser the better, because the water is ultra clear. So you don't want to use thick flies. You don't want to use a lot of material or very, crazy colors. A lot of times I like going subtle with the colors and going very sparse with my flies. It's pretty important for striped bass on the flats in particular. But let me wash this lead wire stuff off my hands so I can actually touch things, and we'll just take a quick little break, all right? So I'm going to grab a seltzer too. So stretch your legs, chat. It's been an hour or so. I'll see you back in here in 2 minutes, all right? Yeah, dude. Yeah, dude. Stay tight, all right? Yeah, keep it tight. Yeah, dude. Yeah, Aiden. Knuckle buster. Are you good? Do you need me to do anything?
Yeah, I might need a ride. Yes.
Okay. Hold on, I'm gonna turn now.
I'm gonna try and get on the bow.
Yeah, get on the bow. All right, you're doing good. Keep doing your thing. I'm gonna move us away.
Is that a little one?
No, that's a nice one.
Oh, let's go!
Come here, hold next to your alley. Good job.
That's sick.
All right. Nice.
Let's go! Woo! Albie slap!
Good job, dude.
Yee!
Looking down the barrel of a 12 gauge little toonie, bro. my god, dude! What the fuck? Woohoo! Oh my god. Yep. Oh my god! I gotta turn the boat so I can cast. Oh my god, dude! Alright, get back to catching him, Diego.
He's gonna kill him now. There's a shark.
Frigates!
Albie?
Frigates.
Frigate.
Whoa! Whoa! There's gotta be bluefin or something. Look at hell yeah, dude. To grab a fish like that, to grab a fly like that, a big deceiver. Albie's in the rain on the half beaks, baby. Greenbacks. And okay, we're back. Sorry about that. Hey, Craggerroll, what's up, man? Hope you're doing well. Sorry, I had to take care of something real quick downstairs. Albie's in the rain on the half beaks. On the half beaks. Good times. Okay. 1 second here. Tied a couple fluke flies. Now we're gonna go for a crab imitation or two. Maybe break out some rubber legs, kind of get funky with it. How you doing, Craggerall? Hope everything's going good. You finally home? Nice, you're doing some smallmouth fishing? Hell yeah. Nice, dude. I'm glad to hear it. Welcome back. Yeah, my buddy Jeff was doing some smallmouth fishing apparently. I don't know if it was around here or he went somewhere, but he's been doing some freshwater stuff apparently. I want to do some summertime bass fishing, striper fishing. All right. Let's go with one of these one-aught. Let's go with a size 2 big game. We'll tie a small crab fly. Crabby, shrimpy thing. You know what I mean? I snagged a minnow on the fly though and hooked it. How you cheated? You know, if you didn't say anything, so good on you for being truthful about it. I'm glad you absolved of your sins. I absolve you. A couple hail, what do you call it? Hail Bob Popovics, then you'll be all right. All right, is that what they say or something? Like Hail Marys. So say 10 Hail Bob Popovics, and I'll absolve you. Bless you, my child. I gotta go. I will watch stream when I get back because I want to see those crab flies. Okay, sounds good, Gabe. Yep. We're gonna stream for a little bit longer, probably another hour. I'm gonna be going to my buddy's house to go play some Warhammer. The Emperor's Children will crush the god. Me and my buddy were teaming up. Alright, what are we going to do here for the crabs? What sort of material? We got some of that EP stuff. We could go classic Merkin. It's super simple, my favorite. We can incorporate some marabou and stuff like that, and some rubber legs. So let's find some rubber legs. Let's see what we got here. We got some tan rubber legs. We got some orange rubber legs. Okay. I think I have some olive rubber legs too. I kind of just recently went through everything and just jammed it in here. That works. Dumbbell eyes. Do we have any just like straight lead dumbbell eyes where there's no... I don't want the color on there, you know what I mean? I want that dark, unpainted. I'm not a fan of like using the... I guess we could use red, but like... So this comes from like Alan Callejo's Sight Fishing for Striped Bass book. He was taking like nail polish, like dull, like a very like a matte, like tan, dullish nail polish color, and he was applying that to the shiny bits of the hooks to dull it down, which is pretty interesting. Saying that it made a substantial difference in hookup in like really clear water where fish are finicky. I'm just looking to see. Thought I did. Those are really large, so we can't use those. They're way too heavy. I'm not going to go through the effort of making like fancy eyes and stuff like that either. The other option is use painted eyes. The painted eyes are a pretty dull color. They're not shiny. I don't want to use any of the nickel or any of that, you know, tungsten that's got a polish to it. So we'll just use some lead eyes. I got to go through this. I kind of went through and roughly organized and moved things around, but go with some white eyes, I guess. Let's go with these. That's fine. Thousands of shiners in the spillways, so that's all they're eating. Oh, very cool. I wonder what sort of oh, I guess you call them shiners. They're different than the shiners I'm thinking of. There are saltwater shiners that I pack and help catch, but yes, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So bait fish flies, huh? Small bait fish flies should be the key for you then. Alright, let's go with some marabou. So green crabs, I either go with tannish color for lady crabs. There are blue claws as well, but lady crabs are the prevalent crabs you find a lot, and then there's invasive green crabs, and there's a million of these green crabs. So we do pretty good with the green crabs, believe it or not. That's one fly that my buddy always used, was a green crab fly, and he did really well, so let's go with a little bit of black and then green marabou off the back, I'm thinking. Not much. This is a smaller fly, so. We'll start with a little bit of this. You could totally just use natural colors, by the way, for this, or natural material like marabou and feathers, and do really good. Oh, we get spicy and do like crab legs. Yeah, we'll do something like that. But I should have olive. I should have olive marabou. I thought I organized it. Yeah, I do. Okay. And then I should have olive and black EP fiber for us to tie a laser legal, which was the right color and size, but they still didn't want it. Yeah, it happens sometimes, right? Especially when there's so much bait. So we experience it a lot in saltwater during the fall. There's so much bait that the fish gorge themselves, so you kind of have to just get lucky at times, because there's like, why would they even bother with your fly when they could just open their mouth and just swim through? Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, I like going with natural material for my crab flies, a mix of natural and synthetic, because I like that movement, you know what I mean? I don't find myself doing a lot of sight fishing. I wish, but I just don't have the means or the boat for it. My buddy has a boat for it, but we never end up doing it. I got to get Jeff to take me out. We got to do some sight fishing, but it's tough. It's almost easier to post up somewhere and wait as opposed to poling a lot of times, and then fishing from shore, it's very tough. So a lot of times you just fish areas, and I'll fish crab flies on the flats and fish drop-offs with intermediate lines and do really good with crab flies. So it's not just for sight fishing, right? You know, I'm going to say sight fishing for striped bass is probably one of the toughest ways to even attempt to catch them. It's not easy. You got to give it up to guides. But it is one of the coolest ways, in my opinion. Let's go with some pincers, makeshift pincers. You know what I mean? Something like this, but we'll probably trim it down. Kind of just tie it off like this, so it kind of just sits. Oh, screwed that one up. Rip that feather. Try and find like a junk feather. I don't want to use my nice ones. Something like this. It's all janked up. Hey Doc, how you doing, man? I hope you're doing good. All pretty chubby, looking at maxed out my 7-weight. Yeah, they're just gorging themselves on shiners. Then that's probably what's going on. Hope you're doing well, Doc. How you been? You been doing any fishing? So, and these don't got to be perfect. I kind of like them where they're sitting like that. We're just going buggy is what we're doing. Let me put this away now. I'm trying to be nice and organized. You know what I mean? Keep my room clean. And now, let's get black and olive EP fiber. Get some olive there. What's going on, Rev? You should be watching War Games live. Alright, where's the black? I think I have a brand new pack. Or no, here we go. I have an open one. Alright. So now I'm going to cut up this EP fiber. 1 second here. Yeah, me and my buddy Garrett were teaming up to take down Rev. We were flip-flopping. We didn't know. He was like, I have a Land Raider. Should I bring that? And we go Blood Angels. I'm like, oh, that sounds sick. And then he's like, I'm like, you got Chaos Bikers or any bikers? He's like, yeah, I got 3. I'm like, sick. Then we'll go Chaos because they just nerfed the shit out of Chaos Space Marines. We were all right, let's pick Chaos. We're getting all excited. But we're going to try and put together a Death Guard army, I think, and a Dark Angels army for Garrett. So he's going to be bringing a bunch of stuff today. Yo, Rev, thank you for the gifted membership, my friend. Get some LI Flies hearts in the Twitch chat for our buddy Rev. Or an LI Flies fish stayer in the YouTube chat. Going out to CJ Big P. I wonder what the P stands for. But thank you, my friend. By the way, I'm working on some more emotes, so for both YouTube and Twitch. But thank you for the support, my friend. Don't need to do it, but it's much appreciated. All right, we're mixing this up here. We're getting a nice mix of black and olive here for our V-ties. Been doing a fair bit lately. Both fly and lure was out at a new spot the other day and had fish just shy of 10 pounds. Are we talking about the bass? Because that's awesome, dude. That's sick. What do you fish with lures for them out there? Alright, we're going to start V-tying our material in here. I'm actually going to break this up, make it a little smaller. We don't need it that long. And in between a couple V-ties, we're going to add some rubber legs. We're going to get fancy. We're getting fancy with it. You don't have to do that, but we shall be doing it. Post a pic in the Discord? Very cool. Yeah, I'll take a look later. Sounds good. I'm curious to see what you use. What happened to that olive legs that I just found? I put them up here, did I not? Did they fall down? Like I put them up here. I grabbed them. All right. Well, man, I want to use the olive. Hold on. I do have another thing of legs. Where is it? Yeah, I got some black legs we can use. These kind of like jointed legs. I got all this stuff from like Lure Parts Online a while back for making. Somebody wanted some crazy smallmouth bass flies that were essentially like jigs. They were crazy. Shallow divers and soft plastics. Okay, gotcha. Very cool. So we're going to tie these off the bottom. And we're essentially just going to V-tie them as well. And I'll probably leave them long. And then I'll like pull all the legs back before I trim it. There's nothing worse than cutting the rubber legs that you tied in when you trim the merkin, the crab shape. It's terrible, but so I've learned over the years how to hopefully not do that, but I'm gonna have to eat something before I go over to Rev's place. Okay, we're gonna fold this. And essentially we're just V-tying right now. I'm trying to keep those ties, actually let me put this farther back. I'm trying to keep those ties pretty close so we don't have any gaps. We're not going to go crazy with the trimming and trim like a lot of the material, but we are going to shape it. Yeah, that hook point's pretty sharp. Finally broke that mono. Tink. That wasn't from me. That was, I mean, it's from the hook point, so it probably counts, but the, what do you call it? That hook point is pretty damn sharp. And that mono is not very strong, medium mono thread. Something you'll learn. Let me just see something real quick. Okay, our buddy Garrett's, he's going to get lunch with his pops, and then he's gonna probably head over. Cool, cool, cool. Yeah, this is where actually having an actual spool, like one of those thread spool, the thread tool. What am I thinking? What's the name of that thing? A threader? Why is it blank in my mind? It's because I never use one. I forgot what it's called. That's probably where it comes into play the most, is mono. Otherwise, it's super easy to spool a bobbin. But a bobbin threader, that's what I'm thinking of. I don't know why that was so hard for me to spit out, but I haven't used them in years. So all the material's tied on top, by the way. That's going to help us flip the hook over with as well as the dumbbell eyes, right? So that's pretty important. You don't got to worry about going too hard with the material because we are going to trim it. Obviously, you don't want to tie so much that it becomes a floating crab fly. But I'm essentially tying them in bunches about this thick. Let me see if I can give you an idea. Something like that. So we'll probably do a fly tying stream tomorrow. We'll see. I don't know if we're going Warhammer round 2 on Sunday beforehand. But I'm going to try and stream in the afternoons because I'm clamming in the mornings. So I'm going to try and do a couple hour stream every day is the idea. So I'm just getting acclimated to working under the sun. It's pretty easy to just want to sit in the swing in the backyard after working on the water and just hang out and drink nice cold seltzers or something, or a Guinness. But we got to do some fly tying. I also need to start preparing for albie season. It's going to be coming up before we know it. We're not there yet, but I should probably start tying a fair amount of albie flies to get ready. Hopefully the albie season's good. It wasn't necessarily that good last year, so locally that is. I think Montauk had a good one, but I don't even think it was that spectacular. Hopefully it's better this year, so I could sell some damn albie flies. When I got started, when I first started really commercial fly tying, the albie fishing here was phenomenal. Every day you could catch like 4 or 5 fish from the rocks if you put your time in. When I started commercially tying, I would just spend all day at the inlet with these old guys that were like retired cops and stuff, hanging out. They're like, what the hell are you doing here? Shouldn't you be working? I'm like, I tie flies for a living, so I'm broke. But guess what? I get to go albie fishing every day with you old fucks. I'd be hanging out with the old guys. They'd be smoking cigars. They'd be smoking cigarettes. Like, all right, yep. Good times albie fishing. Oh, I forgot to put more rubber legs, but you know what? That's okay. That's okay. All right, let's trim this. Less rubber legs to accidentally cut off. Yeah, the bay fishing, and I've seen people fish in the flats. They do it every year. Like, the flats are pretty good. It's right by the ocean. But the ocean fishing is where it's at. Apparently, all the bunker schools are getting destroyed by bass. Probably sand eels as well. I don't think the bay fishing's very good, so I could certainly go fish the ocean and drive to the ocean. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily that far. I don't have a truck to drive on the beach, but it's more so like ocean fishing. You know what I mean? Or surf fishing. So that's kind of a shame. I think there's definitely fish in the bay, but I think, like, I'm almost convinced a majority of the fish are out there harassing bunker, and they just haven't come into the bay because of it. In mass, as usual, because there's just so much bait out there. Usually they'd come into the bay, you know what I mean? Looking for spearing and stuff. And there is fish coming in the bay, but I think a lot of them are just out in the ocean. So, like my local fishing areas that you see me stream from, I don't think they're a ton of bass. I think they're out in the ocean. And unfortunately, I've tried streaming from the beach, but there's just no service because the dunes go up really high and they block the cell phone towers. So I would love to stream the fish in the surf. The other thing, though, fish in the surf, my phone would get destroyed because the waves are like whoosh, smash the crap out of you. Your fly reel's getting covered in sand and stuff. All right, there we go. A nice little crab fly with some EP fiber, some marabou, a couple rubber legs off the back to wiggle around. Yeah, if you've ever fished like the Atlantic surf, particularly like certain beaches are shallower. Like I think Jersey beaches are fairly shallow for the most part, but I'm sure you get areas. Here our beaches are super steep. And what it is the waves erode it, right? So you get these like almost fairly deep drop-offs. So if you see where the beach, I'll give you an idea. The beach, for instance, let's say it slopes like this and the water's like right here, right? Or it could slope like this. And when you see that, it'll usually like top off. There's like a slope and then the beach is flat. So the beach is flat and then it drops off pretty severely. Within like 10 feet, it drops like sometimes 5 to like 15 feet vertically down. And usually what that means is there's a deep hole right there. And you'll see where there's like where the waves have been eroding the beach, you'll see it's higher and lower. So where you see where it's higher in the surf, it's usually there's a hole there. And where it's lower, where that like that sand wall is, where that's lower usually means it's like a shallower area. So you can kind of determine, and also just by looking at the surf, you can determine where the holes, where the troughs are and stuff like that, right? And a lot of times what you do is you swing flies from the shallow water, let it get sucked with the waves or the way that the current, because the current, generally waves don't always just flow straight back, you know what I mean? Usually waves come at an angle, one way or the other. So the wave will actually, when it recedes, it sweeps one way and it'll sweep over a channel, it'll sweep over a trough, these little drop-offs or these holes, and that's where the fish will sit, or they'll come in and they'll grab sand fleas, mole crabs, whatever, sand eels, stuff like that. So that's kind of the surf fishing you'd probably be doing, or you'd be fishing large flies at night, trying to catch big bass in the surf. So, but I work early in the morning, so I ain't nighttime fishing. You know what I mean? But yeah. So the bay fishing is, you can bay fish right now, but it seems like it's all ocean fishing, which is probably fantastic. If you got a truck and you live close to the ocean or right on the beach or something, it's probably every night is probably a banger. I think one of my buddies, South Fork Salt, has been doing pretty good from the looks of it. And part of it really does have to do with, it seems like the bunker are doing pretty good when it comes to the ocean schools. They haven't come into the bay. There's no bunker fishing for us this year, but in the ocean, there's just millions of pounds of pods bunkers, from like 10,000 pounds to like 500,000 pound pods of bunker, just dotting the beach literally sometimes every a couple 100 feet to every 1/8 of a mile, you'll find another 500,000 pound school of bunker. So it's all ocean stuff. There's whales, sharks, dolphins, giant striped bass, tuna. It's crazy. So be nice if I had my boat fixed. We could go out there and do some fun shit, but that's all right. We'll try. I've just been saving money essentially. It's good. I'm finally working a little bit more clamming, but I'm trying to keep up with fly tie and everything too. But I'm just trying to save money because it's going to take a little while to get that boat fully operational. So just trying to be responsible. One thing I've learned commercial fishing and clamming is you have to save your money because it's not a guaranteed paycheck. So you got to prepare for slow times, you know what I mean? But luckily, so far, it's been pretty good. So all depends how busy restaurants are, stuff like that, and all the prices change. So it's a whole economy in itself, the shellfishing industry. All right. Very nice, though. A nice little crab fly with some rubber legs. These are the sort of stuff I like fishing near the drop-offs. And I'll either use a intermediate line. I'll let it sink for about 10 seconds when we're fishing about like 7-8 foot of water. And then I'll just jig it and strip it and let it pause and stuff. And you'll find striped bass, they'll eat it. They'll chase it right up to the boat. So and what they do is they cruise the edges of these flats. And they're cruising the, like, essentially the drop-offs where it meets the shallow water. And a lot of times they'll just cruise the edge looking for stuff. And then they'll find these channels and swim up on the flats and then come up onto the shallow areas. So because a lot of times it's really shallow, like they can't even get on the flat at certain times. They need to find these little like waterways where there's these depressions that run along the flats or through the flats, and they swim up in there. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool thing. Okay, let's tie a sand eel half and half, because that's the other summertime fly I like tying. So these are the new one-odd Mustad big game hooks. The curved streamer hooks, they call them. I guess they don't call them big game hooks anymore, huh? It's a replacement to the big games. I still call them big game hooks. So let's see. We're going to start with dumbbell eyes as usual for half and half. Now the only, the main thing is this is how I'd pretty much tie most sand eel half and halves, but I'm just going to tie it very sparse. It's one thing that I found. The sparser the better. And really not a lot of flash. I don't go heavy on flash when it comes to these shallow water flies. Sometimes just no flash. You'd be surprised, like, when you're fishing in a foot of water, a foot and a half of water, and it's, like, crystal clear, Bahamas sort of water, close to the ocean, these offshore flats, they're, like, crystal clear. These fish can be very picky at times. You need to be using fluorocarbon leaders, long leaders, everything's good. They'll see the boat from, like, 60, 50, 70 feet away as you're stripping, so it's, like, it's tough at times. Sometimes they'll swim right up to the boat. And you'll see it. You'll see they're right underwater. You can see perfectly with your glasses, but a lot of times they come at an angle, let's say where the sun and the wind, so you can't see them. You'll see them swim almost right up to the boat, and then they shoot off, because they end up getting spooked by seeing the hull of the boat or whatever. But sometimes you're lucky. You could see them from like 40, 50 feet away, and then you're actually sight fishing, you know what I mean? It's tough if you don't have somebody up on a poling platform. All right. Half and half, eh? We need some thin white hackle, which a couple of these should work. We don't need anything too fancy. We're going pretty sparse. And then I need... Oh, man, I'm running low on white bucktail. I think I have one or two, though. Oh, yeah, I do. Okay. Not the best bucktails, but I do have some. I'm probably not even going to use body braid on this, just because, like I said, I don't even want it to be too flashy. I like my flats flies pretty dull. That flash, I find a lot of times, will spook them. That's just my personal thing, though. Maybe I'm wrong. So we're going to go some nice thin feathers on here. Like that. A very thin amount of bucktail to help stiffen the tail so that it doesn't foul. This feather's a little bit thicker, but that's okay. It's pretty thin. Could tie some flash, like 1 or 2 strands of flash boo, like Kenny Abrams style, But I'm not even going to worry about it. And I could add some body braid, but I'm not going to. We're going to test it. No flash on this. And then we'll take a little bit of white bucktail here. Again, a very sparse amount. We'll take all the short ones out. So this is like what? What would Kenny Abrams say? This is probably like 8 whispers. A whisper's a couple hairs, so there's like 16, 19 bucktail hairs here or something. Not that you need to count it, but you get the idea. Like, we're going very sparse. And we'll see what this looks like. We might add another pinch like that. Yeah, I think we can add one more pinch like that. Very, very small amount of hair. You'd be surprised. Like, it can make quite the difference. Sparseness is what I found is like one of the big things. Like the translucent look of the fly, because bait fish on the flats like this, where it's super clear and super sunny, they're almost translucent, like almost clear. So just something like that. Very simple. And then we'll go ahead and take some tan or yellow. I do like the yellow. Like a pale yellow color or chartreuse, something like this. And we go, again, very light on the amount of hairs. Something like this. I found either tan or yellow is my favorite, like June, July, sand eel, flats colors. So this is kind of like a fluorescent yellow chartreuse. It's borderline chartreuse, but it's, I'd say, a little bit more yellow. And again, very sparse. We might add a little bit more hair, like slightly different color. Yeah, we could add a little bit more. But again, you can see this is fairly sparse, right? Like, we really don't want a lot of material on there. And those dumbbell eyes, they're a little big. You got to be careful, right? Because I would almost go a little bit smaller with the dumbbell eyes, because if you're trying to sight fish in particular, what's going to happen is if any of these dumbbell eyes, if you make too loud of a splash, the fish are just going to freak out for the most part. But sometimes it doesn't freak them out. But we found that it can at times. What's the color that we want to do on top of here with this yellowish sort of color? Oh, I know. Let's go with like a little bit of like a magenta lavender color. Very light. Very light amount. Just a couple pieces. Now we're getting really artistic. Where's Mike Ross? Yeah, just a small amount. And then we'll tie a little deceiver after this. These are my 2 bait fish flies that I fish. You can fish it just like, you know, on the edge of these flats, or you can use these for like sight fishing essentially, right? And again, no flash or nothing. You can use flash for sure. But I found it a lot of times I won't use any flash and it'll work just as well. I don't know if it's better, but... And the other thing, you can get some, like, they have like a tan nail polish and stuff. You can use that. You could dull up the hook point and the hook eye and stuff. This one's kind of a matte, dark gray finish. But those bright silver hooks and stuff, you can do something like that. That's something that I learned from Alan Caleo's book, Sight Fishing for Striped Bass. He claims it makes a big difference, so I don't know. It very well might, you know what I mean? But again, you could see very, very sparse fly. Not a lot of material at all. I mean, in the water, it's going to be that thin, you know what I mean? Which is what we're imitating when it comes to sand eels. They're very, 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 very small, thin bait fish. Let's tie another one. This time on a size 2. And we're going to tie a slim deceiver. Essentially a very thin deceiver. And we'll do it with a flatwing as well. This is my buddy Jeff's favorite fly, essentially. Except I think he ties them traditionally where the feathers are tied inwards, like the way we did with the half and half. But I like tying them with flatwings, so... It's a mix between a flatwing and a Mickelson's deceiver, which is just a very sparsely tied lefty-east deceiver, is really all it is. No difference there, really. Other than that, what did I do with that bucktail? Did I put it back? I think I did. Yep. So again, we need like 1 or 2 pieces of hackle. Nothing much. very small amount here for the tail. And we're going to go smaller. This is like more like the current size sand eels you find in June sometimes in the bay. They're pretty small. They're almost like at times as thin as like a matchstick or like 2 matchsticks put together, like the width of a matchstick. You know what I mean? That's pretty thin when it comes to a bait fish. So if you're ever fishing specifically and you see these very small sand eels, sometimes you'll have to like pinch and rip a lot of bucktail off of a fly. I've had to like almost butcher a deceiver and remove like 75% of the hair to where there was like barely any hair left, and I would start catching fish. It was pretty crazy. It was actually mind blowing. But I sat there and was just pulling more and more hair off the fly one day early in like June. It was right by an inlet, and there's like a flat that opens to like deeper water, and there were sand eels right at sunrise that get confused because the sun comes up. They come out of the ground probably, or they go back into the ground, whatever they do, I don't know. But the changing of the light, the classic thing. This time I'm going to use some body braid. If I can find it, that is. Let's see. I thought I had some. Some pearl would be nice. I know I have a pack somewhere, but I don't feel like digging. Unless it's right here. Let's see. Where is that? Ah, yes, there is a piece. I knew I had a piece here. And I have a pack, but I'll use this up in the meantime. Again, no flash. No flash for the tail, but the flash on the body should be enough, I think. Yeah, like a shoelace or something. Yeah, it's if you've ever found the very, very, very small juvenile ones, it's crazy. If you can somehow catch one in like a stripping basket or something, what you can do is you can stomp on the ground because they bury themselves in the ground. So you stomp on the ground and they come out. It's unbelievable how small they are. Or if like a striped bass or a fish will spit up one. Because you get sand lances over there, right? I know on the West Coast they call them sand lances. They're, I think, technically different species than the sand eels we get on the Atlantic. But by the way, large oceanic sand eels can grow up to like 6, 7, 8 inches. They're pretty big, even though still being pretty thin. That is one of the favored baits of oceanic Atlantic bluefin tuna. So, yeah, you get the lance and sand eel. Yeah, very cool. Okay. So again, a little bit more bucktail for the belly here. And unless something pops up, will be doing another stream tomorrow, earlier in the day. And then during the week next week, we're going to be streaming in the afternoons, all right? We're trying to get back to it. So Tuesdays and Sundays usually. But now Sundays we're actually playing Savage World later in the day, so I should be all right to stream in the mornings. But sometimes we like getting a double Warhammer weekend in at Revs, so we'll see. And Tuesdays I have D&D, so other than that, we're in business for some fly tying, streaming, and some fishing. We'll try and go do some fishing too. Go to some areas. I got to get a parking permit, but red and green. That's interesting, yeah. Ours are essentially kind of like tannish. You know what I mean? Like a tan brownish color. Speaking of which, let's go with some tan, I think. Where is my tan? I think I have another tan tail, don't I? Yeah, tan and yellow. I mean, olive is the classic sand eel color, but when it comes to like on the flats, I find a lot of times the sand eels aren't as dark. You know, they change their colors just like silver sides. So we'll go with a little bit of tan here for the top. You could add a little bit of a peacock curl. I usually don't for these summertime flies. like I said, they're usually not super dark when they're on the flats. And you'll see the striped bass. The striped bass become this like honey blonde color up top. They don't become dark grayish black. They actually switch to a brown tannish color because literally their skin color changes when they go on the flats, and they spend a lot of time on shallow water because it's their natural camouflage. Same thing with the bait fish. Really cool though. You'll see striped bass that are very light in color up top. It's because they've been spending a lot of time on the flats. It's very interesting. And bait fish do the same exact thing. They can change their translucency and their colors based on the color of the water and everything, and the color of the bottom that they're over. Looks more like a bronzish red. Yeah, that's kind of very similar. It's kind of like an olivish, brownish, tannish color, the ones we have. It's hard to explain, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're the same ones. Oh, out of coffee, that's fine. All right, let's put some eyes on this, and we'll glue this up. Again, nice and sparse, super simple, nothing fancy. If you think you have too much material on, if you think you don't have enough material on there, you probably have too much. That's one thing I learned. So nice and sparse for flats fishing, all right? Very shallow, clear water fishing, summertime. Go very sparse. That's my trick. Crabs, you don't necessarily have to, right? Because that's a whole different thing, but we're imitating bait fish, for sure. And sand eels and spearing, even bay anchovies are a popular summertime flats bait out here. So put some resin on here and glue this up. Kind of let this spread out a little bit. We'll cover our thread here, nice and clean looking sand eel head. That looks good to me, that's fine. We don't want too much. I do want to cover the back of those eyes though, so just a very small amount here to even it up. I want to make sure those eyes don't pop off after catching 20 striped bass on a banger day. I'll pull this back a little bit to get that profile right, just to help guide it, because there was a little punk rock up top with the hair sticking up. And there we go. We have a nice looking sand eel. So we tied a half and half sand eel. We tied a flatwing sparse sand eel fly, two juvenile flounder flies, as well as a where was that first one? Oh, over here. As well as the what do you call it? The crab fly. So not bad. We tied some nice summertime flies. I'm gonna be going to my buddy's house to play some Warhammer, so I just wanted to do a quick stream. It's been a little bit, and I'm getting used to the summertime clamming schedule, so I'm gonna be streaming in the afternoons during the week. So what do you call it? So we're gonna be doing some more fly tying, and we'll probably go out and do some fishing. So apologize, I haven't been streaming as much, but I've been getting used to doing some hard clamming, but luckily it's not like an all-day thing, so it's like a half-day thing, so we'll have time in the afternoon to do some fly tying and maybe some fishing as well, because it's been a little while. But yeah, last time I went, me and AC Fisher went out, he was snagging bunker. He caught like a 30-pound bass, a 40-pound bass. There were bass chasing bunker, a lot of bass under bunker piles, but I was fishing with giant Sedati slammer, synthetic ones, and a beast fly, and managed to have a bass chase or messing with a bunker, and I threw the fly, and Aiden yoinked the bunker out of the way, but unfortunately we couldn't get it. So at some point we're gonna have to try for that again. Maybe we'll stream it, but just him catching those big bass on the bunker is cool to see. But thank you so much for hanging out, chat. Short stream, but whipping up some summertime flies. And I'm going to make some food and whatnot and get ready. I'm going to go to my buddy Rev's place here in like an hour or so and go play some Warhammer. So probably tomorrow morning I have time, unless I end up playing some more Warhammer. We'll see. But during the week we're going to be streaming probably around like 2 or 3, maybe 4 o'clock for a couple hours every day and doing some fly tying. So, but appreciate everybody tuning in. Big shout out again to Rev for the gift sub or gift membership to CJ. Appreciate that, my friend. I'll see you in a little bit. And Doc, Craggerroll, everybody, thank you so much, Southern Fly Guy, for hanging out and watching. Appreciate it. Hope you folks have an awesome weekend. Maybe I'll see you tomorrow. More than likely, I may do a short stream, but if not, during the week, for instance, Monday, we'll probably stream around like 3 or 4 my time, so Eastern time. So thank you so much. I hope you folks have an awesome weekend. Get outside, enjoy it. And, yeah, I'll see you again soon. So I'll make sure to post in the Discord. But take it easy, all right? Thanks for handing out, Doc. Appreciate it. And I'll see you folks probably tomorrow for some more summertime fly tying, all right? So take it easy, chat. Peace. Have an awesome day. I'm going to go kick some guards' butt.